Ba-da-ba-ba, ba-da-ba-ba. All right. Promoter 101. 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 Promoter 101.
Hi, I'm Michael Yerke from Live Nation. I'm the president of talent for House of Blues Entertainment, and you're here at Promoter 101.
Welcome, one and all. We are thrilled to have you, and we can't wait to cut a deal with you. Tell me what we got to do to get you into this podcast today. Mr. W. Luke Pierce, help me out with this deal.
What do we have to do to see you in a new podcast today, friends? We've got a dandy one all gassed up right here, ready to go. This one's built just for you. And let me tell you some of the features this deluxe podcast has for you and yours. That includes the genuine BSE's Vice President of Industry Relations. That's Brooklyn Sports Entertainment. Here on the podcast, we're going to have Tina Suca talking about booking some of the hottest venues on the planet.
Hey, if we didn't sell you yet, also at no additional charge from the Staples Center, President Lee Zeidman turns the tables on us. What more can we do to make this deal happen, Luke?
Tell you what, proof is in the pudding, my friend. So let's just take it out for a test drive, open it up on the highway, and see what it can do. I'll just grab the keys, and off we go. Episode 158 of Promoter 101 coming at you.
Dawn Holiday, Promoter 101.
Well, the cat is out of the bag. The end of the podcast is coming up fast, and you can join us for the final interview in person as we do it live from Nashville, Tennessee at the IEBA conference.
That is right. This fall, we're going to do our final interview and our final live podcast recording from IEBA. That's the International Entertainment Buyers Association Conference as the keynote session, Dan, giving us the big dais this year. I'm really looking forward to that. That's going to be taking place October 27th to the 29th at the JW Marriott Hotel here in Music City, Nashville, Tennessee. And we're looking forward to wrapping this up with so many of our friends in attendance. It's going to be a very special podcast. And as we've been saying for the past couple episodes, we're working really hard to make sure that it will be one of our best ones yet.
Little special things like we'll be announcing the Badass of the Year at that episode. You didn't know that, but that's true.
It'll be the last Badass of the Year, although maybe we just keep giving them out, Dan. We just give it out on socials. We'll have to think about that when this podcast is done.
This will be the last live session. After that, they'll all be dead sessions.
That's true.
Our demise is near, Luke. Some dark shit here today at Promoter 101.
Yes.
If you've got something you want to share with us, simply email us at Steiny at promoter101.net. We're happy to respond to you day, night, evenings, weekends. Well, we're at the dry cleaners. Maybe we're at the drive-thru. Who the fuck knows? You don't really know because it's email and you don't get to see where the fuck we are. So stop fucking asking.
Okay. And if you want to hit us on social media, you're more than welcome to follow us on Twitter. We're having a conversation over there. And I'm at W. Luke Pierce. Dan's at The Jew. The show's at Promoter 101. Come check us out.
You can also follow us on that Instagram site. The show is Steiny Promoter 101. Luke is W. Luke Pierce, and I am Dan Presents.
Of course, we're on Facebook at Promoter 101. Check us out there.
Tumblr, also Promoter 101.
And you know where all the kids are, Dan. LinkedIn, of course. So check us out there. Also, if you're just old school, www.promoter101.com.
Or, you could mail us a letter if you really wanted to be old school.
Hey, this is Rob Zaffarelli.
Patty Ann Tarleton.
Paul Lohr. Phil Rodriguez.
Rick Greenstein.
Donatas Nachayos.
Drew Pellet. Rich Mills. Sasha Bombaji.
Seth Hurwitz. Steve Martin.
Whitney Bond.
This is Trip Brown.
Wayne Forte.
Steve Zapp.
Trevor Solomon.
You live on Promoter 101.
Hey, there's no greater way to name drop a bunch of names other than just saying happy birthday to a bunch of people. So let's start the week of June 11th. 17th, 2019.
Tuesday, 6/11. Sam Pearl, John Shear, and Charlie Bresco. Three people.
That's true. They are indeed people. On Wednesday the 12th, we're wishing a happy birthday to the better half of Brian Penix, Miss Renee Penix, Becca Walters, and Lee Borsai.
Thursday, Salt Lake sound engineer to the stars, Mr. Ed Pratt, Sacramento venue genius, Sid Heidenberg, and new politician tapped from Madison, Wisconsin, and concert promoter extraordinaire from Frank's Brothers Entertainment, Tag Evers.
On Friday the 14th, wishing a happy birthday to Kelly Strickland and Mark Ryder.
6/15, that's Saturday. We're going to jump down to Australia to tip our hat to Michael Chugg, then over to London for Stuart Galbraith, Then up to Canada for Jeff Goodman, back over to Colorado for David Geller, and then heading back to the East Coast for John Davis. Happy birthday to all you marvelous sons of bitches.
On Sunday the 16th, happy birthday to Howard Zuckerman, Marissa Flynn, Steve Cook, and Kevin Chivers.
Monday 6/17, Bruce Garfield, Pete Olson, Matt Pike, and a mensch of all menches, Jerry Ross. Happy birthday, son of a bitch.
Wonderful wishes to everybody. Celebrate a birthday this week from the gang here at Promoter 101.
I got to say son of a bitch twice in that fucking rundown. That was awesome, Luke.
Hey, Harlan Fry here from Atlantic Records, sitting with my good buddy Dan Steinberg, Promoter 101. Let's go.
Promoter 101 Flashbacks.
Episode 15.
Shep Gordon.
The celebrity chef thing, we can't not talk about it. It's like those guys all credit you for creating that genre. And every time you walk in a supermarket and see Emerald seasoning, it's like...
Yeah, I never think of myself as creating. I think of myself as putting a face on a wave. What I think I'm really good at is seeing these waves and then attaching faces to the waves. So some of the waves are generational. Alice was, anger towards parents is a generational wave. It always exists. Every generation has faces. Elvis Presley was a face. He couldn't show his hips on the Ed Sullivan Show. Sinatra was one. He was got in fights. There's always a face that the parents say, you better not get that guy's music. Then it became rap music for guys like me. I remember walking past my kid's room hearing rap the first time and opening the door and saying, get this shit out of my house. And as I said it, I realized, fuck, this is going to be the biggest thing ever. So with the chefs, it was really simple to me. I was mentored by a great chef. Through him, I got to meet the chef community, realized that they weren't making any money at all. I mean, literally, Wolfgang was the highest paid guy at $80,000 a year. Nobody had two restaurants.
What year is this roughly?
This is 91.
That's amazing.
Yeah, Emerald had one restaurant. Nobu had one restaurant. Wolf had one restaurant. None of them had two restaurants, and none of them made any money outside of their restaurants. Yet the demand to get into Spago or Le Cirque or Charlie Trotter was beyond any demand that you ever saw in your life. If you were wealthy, you could buy your way into the 50-yard line of the Super Bowl that morning. You could be in the front row of a Broadway play. You could not buy your way into Spago. There was no highway to buy in. So the demand was there. To me, it was so clear that all I had to do was build highways to the audience. What I told the guys was Michael Jackson, if there hadn't been records, radio stations, TV, Michael Jackson would be a wandering minstrel. You guys are wandering minstrels, and you're one little restaurant feeding 150 people a night. You have to get on TV so they can turn you on. You have to have products in stores so they can buy and take you home. You have to build highways to your audience. And I know how to do that, so I'll do that and then have a good time. So I did it all pro bono. I never charged any of the guys.
So even Emerald's like seasoning stuff? That's
the only business I did. The way I got the Food Network to start was by promising that all the artists would work for free for 5 years. No talent costs whatsoever. But I got them to give a commercial in each show that the artist could control. So we then had to create products for that commercial.
So you could bring in revenue and monetize it?
Yeah. So I deal with all my chefs. Everything's pro bono, but if we create a project and I have to fund the creation of it, which I did, then we go 50-50 on the product.
So you're still involved then?
Yeah, yeah.
It seems like that might have paid off.
Yeah, worked out well. I mean, now you look at these guys, Emerald comes here on a private plane. It's insane, but I'm happy for them. They're great artists.
And you retired from the food side of the chef world.
I retired from really everything other than Alice.
And Alice is it's in your blood.
It's a body part. It's like an arm. I gave the commencement speech at the Culinary Institute this year. It was the first 4-year graduating class. And basically what I said to him was, I'm really happy I helped to build a path where you can now go out and cook for rich people. But when you leave your restaurant, your hotel, when you look to the left and you look to the right, they're starving people. And if you think we all work this fucking hard for you to only serve $100 meals, you got a second guess coming. And that's what Roy Choi embodies. His mission is to feed people who are hungry, quality food at an affordable price. I think in a very unconscious way, he's starting to change the fabric. About 6 months ago, I got a video of a food kitchen in, I think it's St. Louis, that's completely changed the model of a food kitchen. You come in, a maitre d' seats you, you get a menu, you're served 3 courses, you pick what you're going to eat, someone serves it to you, you have a tablecloth, a napkin. These are homeless people. And they train people in the restaurant who are homeless to do these jobs so they can go off and get jobs. It's just a beautiful model. It gives dignity back to the people who can't afford the food. It gives them dignity in front of their children, because most of the people come in with children. And it gives them a chance to find a life, and do it for others. So I think it's Roy's influence, even if not directly. It's Roy, it's Jamie Oliver. There's a couple of guys around the world who have really focused on it, and it's really beautiful, and it's what it's needed, It's the we are the world of the food world. We need guys who focus that way.
Hi, this is Rebecca Shapiro. I'm a senior VP at Shorefire Media, and I am on Promoter 101.
It's time to turn the tables. It's time to turn the tables.
Up next, we've got a special Turn the Tables with the Staples Center's president, Lee Zeidman.
So it's time for Turn the Tables, right? That's gorgeous.
It is a gorgeous bottle. Now, there's a story behind this beautiful bottle for those of you who obviously cannot see what we're doing here because this is a podcast. This is a bottle of Don Julio 1942 tequila. This is my go-to drink of choice. This is what I love. Now, Dan, at all the poll stars that I used to go to and had been around, had always done a panel where we had 8 to 9 people at that front desk there, front tabletop there. And he would run around and he would stir up the room with tremendous energy, and he would have tequila.
Truth or Patron.
Now, it wasn't good tequila. It was what I would call mouthwash to a certain extent. It was the Blanco Patron, which I would never drink if it was the last tequila on earth.
I think you called it swill.
It was swill. Now, I'd always wonder, why doesn't he bring good tequila out? He'll probably get better responses or whatever. And the hotels have this. And so fast forward to a billboard in New York at the Roosevelt Hotel. I see Dan there. He's running around doing his thing. He's full of energy, doing everything else. He says, I'm making a run. What do you want? I said, Don Julio 42 would be nice. It would be a nice drink here. It would be great if you came back with a bottle of that. And I don't know who you were with, but you had a buddy with you. You guys went out and you came back with a Don Julio bottle of Blanco. And I said, what is that? That is not what I sent you out to get. Lee, that was all they had. So in honor of both of those occasions, one, where I've always felt that you should have had good tequila for your panels, and two, the fact that you actually went to a liquor store thinking of me to bring back a bottle of Don Julio that you thought was what I was going to drink, I brought a bottle of Don Julio 1942 for you to sip on your way back up north and to relax with it and think of us whenever you want to have that.
That sounds amazing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, my friend.
We're excited to share a full interview with Lee in just a few weeks here on Promoter 101.
This is Dan Weiner from Paradigm on Promoter 101.
Hey, Dan, it's time for the unveiling of the Promoter 101 Badass of the Week. Who do we have?
This week it goes out to WME's. That's William Morris Endeavor, or Endeavor as the parent company's one and only Mark Geiger. He runs the music department and he's built one of the biggest in the globe. He's a total badass, making him this week our Promoter 101 Badass of the Week.
I don't know how you argue with a head of an agency and a guy who's accomplished so much for being this week's Badass of the Week. A well-deserved congratulations goes out to Mark.
This is Lee Goforth from CAA, and you're on Promoter 101.
For our featured interview this week, we are very, very happy to have joining us on the podcast Tina Suca. She's the Vice President of Industry Relations, Brooklyn Sports Entertainment, where she joined in 2017 to head up the East Coast operations. Looking forward to hearing her talk about booking one of the hottest venues on the planet.
I'm hanging out with the world-famous Tina Suca at the beautiful Sunset Marquee. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
I've had the pleasure of knowing you a good part of my career and love that I get to call you a friend.
Same here.
You have been in this business for a very long time, and you have continued to move up as you've changed organizations and venues and relationships. You've moved up and up and up in the world, so you must be doing something right.
I hope so. Yeah, I'm enjoying myself along the ride, too, which is great.
Now, you work here in LA, but you're responsible for New York venues and some of the most notarized venues in the world.
That is true. I am our West Coast extension for everybody on the East Coast. So I'm here to meet with agents, promoters, managers, and a few other things that have been thrown my way.
So Barclays is your baby.
Barclays and Nassau Coliseum, NYCB Live, which is where I was GM for a couple of years. So that holds a special place in my heart.
Right, and now Webster Hall.
In Webster Hall, which is really majority Bowery, but, we get some input and working on some fun things with them. So that's also been fun.
So that just kicking off, that's got to be an exciting time.
It really is. And that's when I miss being in an actual venue because everyone there is dealing with the craziness of what that looks like in a positive way. And I kind of wish that I was there to be there with them. I'll be there next week, but I do miss out on some of the fun shows from being on the West Coast.
Yeah, you don't really hear sound check from over here.
Right.
Okay, let's go back. Nederlander. It's where you kind of got your start with the business, right?
I did. Alex Hodges gave me my first job. I was in banking, going to school for banking, and I wanted to be in the music business so bad that I got a job as a receptionist, and Alex hired me.
And when you say banking, like you were going to wind up working for the big commercial banks, like in finance?
In finance, yeah.
Not as a teller.
No. Well, I was a teller and then a loan officer. And then I was still going to school and, working full time and going to school part time. And I just wanted to be in so bad. I was willing to go and be a receptionist to do that.
Okay. So how did you come about Alex Hodges?
Let's see. I was married at the time to someone who was working with someone that worked for Alex, like his fiance was working for Alex. She had worked for him in Atlanta when he was managing Stevie Ray Vaughan. And she's like, I know this guy. I know he's looking for someone, but it's a huge step down for you. And I'm like, I'll take it. And I went in and Alex hired me because it's what he told me later. He's like, I can type faster than you. I'm like, I have no doubt. But he hired me because he said I was the only one who took it seriously. It was a receptionist job, but I came in a suit with my briefcase and I was ready to go. So he's like, I'm going to give you a chance. And within 3 months, I was a booking assistant.
So it all started with Alex Hodges.
Yeah.
All right. So 97, you joined House of Blues.
I did. And that was such a fun time. It was during the heyday of the club. And, you would work well beyond 80, 90 hours. And you decide that I need to do laundry. I need to pull my life together. And the one night that you decide you were going to stay home because you just needed the break, someone would call you the next day and say, oh, Bruce Springsteen got on stage with the local blues band. And you're like, you gotta be kidding me. Like one night I take off and it really did happen. Yeah. So, or Neil Diamond showed up with Super Diamond. You'd look at the calendar and say, I think I can take this one night off at Super Diamond. And then Neil Diamond gets on stage with them and you're like, I can't believe I missed that. It was such an exciting time. It was really a great place to work.
So many of the great talent buyers that have become some of the biggest promoters in the world cut their teeth there.
Absolutely.
So without even knowing it when you took that job, you're networked across the entire industry because you were there at that time. Like the guys that run the business came from that farm league.
Absolutely. And so it was unlike when you work at an arena or any other theater. At House of Blues, it was so social, really. People were having a great time, and there was always that upstairs balcony with all the tables, and celebrities to the biggest in our industry would be there. So it was really a great time to make connections and meet a lot of interesting, fun people.
Now, your title at House of Blues, Artist Relation Manager, which is something a record label would have. Promoters, not so much. So was that a new thing? Promoter having Artist Relationship Manager? Was that an LA thing? Because that's not normal.
I can't say for sure, but I'm pretty sure it was Kevin Morrow, my boss, who felt like that was a super important position to have because, it's Los Angeles filled with celebrities and the people who were responsible for giving these big shows to the venue. So they needed to be, that little extra VIP care. So it was always, I was there if they needed something. And, it was probably the most fun job I ever had. It was great.
Love Kevin. He's amazing.
Yeah, he's one of my mentors as well.
So at some point you crossed paths with Prince.
I did. As you know, he played a couple of private events there. He'd shut down the club and play later, or he would play for up in the foundation room. And just so happened that a friend of mine was working directly for him. And he said, I need someone to go out on the road with me for this musicology tour. Like he didn't have a manager or an agent. He went back and forth with having different people manage or be his agent. And she said, do you remember that person from House of Blues? And he was like, yeah, a short little blonde girl. And she was like, yeah. And he goes, absolutely. I want to talk to her. And I went down to the studio and met with him, which was interesting.
You and Prince one-on-one.
Yeah. He sat in a big, tall, high chair and put me on a lower chair. And we did our interview. And I said, let's see if you like me. I have a great job at House of Blues that I really love. Why don't we do a few things together? And if you like me, I think he liked that I was being so candid, but I loved my job so much at House of Blues. I kind of didn't want to leave, but it was Prince. So I just said, let's see how we like each other. And then one day he just called me and said, we're getting ready to go. Are you in or out? And I'm like, I'm in.
You called him Prince directly when you're talking to him? Or did he answer to something else for the people that knew him?
At first, I think I called him Sir because I wasn't sure what
Prince.
people, right? Right. Yeah. So I called him Sir, I think, and then I would just call him Prince. And all the stories I heard about you're not supposed to look at him and, don't call him Prince. If he was that way with anyone, he wasn't that way with me.
That's awesome. 21 days at the Forum. Who does that?
Well, funny enough, so I worked for Prince not for very long, less than a year. And, that world was a bit crazy and it was no sleep. And I'd go to bed at like 2 a.m. and get back up at like 7. I was scheduling his press and going over things for the next day at the venue. And so it was really busy and really tiring. And it was an interesting time. But when I left, I kept a great relationship, was super respectful. He actually was super kind and wanted me to stay and offered me a lot of great things, including a bonus. And I just thought it probably wasn't where I wanted my career to go. But because of our friendship, he called years later. I was GM at the Forum and the Foo Fighters were playing. And he had someone call and say, hey, Prince wants to come in. He wants to know if he can park down in the tunnel. And, is it okay if he comes down? And I said, tell Prince that Tina said, love to have him here anytime. And he didn't end up going that night to that show, but we just struck back up like a friendship. And I would go to his house and hang out and he'd have chefs make dinner and invite me to parties. Some of my friends got the benefit of going to jam sessions in his basement at night. And he would come to the Forum for meetings, which the staff would freak out about. Even the police at one time were sitting in the parking lot there having their lunch. And then they all came running in like, did we just see Prince come in here? And we had a lot of big plans. He wanted to do like a modern version of the Cotton Club.
Oh, cool.
In the Forum.
Like his VIP setup.
Yeah. And so at that point in time, he was talking and I just said to SMG, my boss, Hank Abate at the time, another mentor, I said, look, he's asking me to do all these extra things for him. I think it's going to lead into a bunch of shows. So just want to make sure you guys are good with it. But it was a lot of, working around the clock again, phone calls 3 o'clock in the morning, but he is who he is. So we really worked towards that. And one of your like nightmare stories that you get, I had one point he said to me, I really want to do this. I want to have poets and artists and do jam sessions in the Forum Club. And he's like, I need to know how much ceiling height is in there. And at the time, the church owned the venue, but SMG was operating and I was the GM. So I had a section of the ceiling taken out to see how much height we could get to do this. And there wasn't enough height. And at the time, there wasn't enough money to repair the ceiling in like a really proper way. So try explaining that to the next time that the church and your bosses come in,
To the walkthrough.
Prince wanted to see how much height was in the ceiling for a stage. But in the end, sadly, after SMG was out of the building, he did those nights. And I was already working for SMG as GM at NASA. But I said, hey, I was pretty much part of this. Can you send me back? And they're like, yeah. So I went back for some of the shows.
You get the vibe that Prince lived it, that the way he dressed on stage was the way he dressed in life. Is that real?
Yeah. Like I would see him in like a velour jogging suit, but it was always like high end. His hair was always done. He always looked perfect.
You assume when most artists get off stage, they're off stage. But Prince, I think the world was his stage.
Yeah. One time, a tour bus, when we were on the road, we stopped in the middle of the night and everybody would stop. The girls were on one bus, the guys on another. So we see Prince get off the bus and he's wearing these shoes that light up. They're like high heel, like little kids have their shoes that like light up in the heels. And he gets off the bus and you see the guy who's working in the gas station who can't believe what's happening. And we're all on the bus like dying laughing because you see the guy sneak around and he's like, you can see him calling people like going, oh my God, like
Prince is here at my gas station.
Yeah, 2 o'clock in the morning in the middle of like Indiana.
So you're in LA, but you come back. How does the Wiltern come to be? Or at least your gig at the Wiltern?
Yeah, I did a short stint with the infamous Jack Utsick. Bobby Reynolds and I did a short stint with his company. So I was booking secondary and tertiary markets, mostly west of the Mississippi. And
answering to Doug Isaac?
Working with Doug, not really answered to Jack directly. And, I was kind of sensing that things were a bit weird. And so I was looking around. And when I heard that the GM job for the Wiltern was open, I thought, God, that'd be perfect for me. Even though I wasn't GM of House of Blues, but I just went in there and interviewed with Nick Masters and Mike Garcia, and they hired me. And it was fantastic.
It really is the coolest room in LA right now.
It has always been one of the coolest rooms in LA. And there's great bookers, Greg Siegel and Eric Kurtz and Rich Best were booking that. It was, one of those same things where you're working every night, but you didn't mind it because every night was just a different genre of music and so much fun and such a beautiful theater. And people just came there to have a great time. I think we're all lucky in that way. That's what we do for a living.
Well spoken. So Nassau Coliseum, you're competing with MSG for content.
Yes.
How the fuck do you handle that? It is the most famous arena in the world, as they say, right? So it's are you just waiting for them to be booked and grab the stuff that flows over because it's the biggest market in the world, or?
It works in so many different ways. As you know, the artist usually, not always, but is the person who wants to do something. And you might have, maybe they've already played MSG and it's for the play that they've wanted to do their whole life because MSG has certainly been an iconic venue in New York. And they might do that, and then they decide they're going to do a Nassau Coliseum. And, Barclays being what it is, it's just a really cool venue with a cool vibe. And we get a lot of the younger artists who are like, that's where I want to be. So I feel like once everybody does their MSG play, all bets are off.
We've done that. The first time we do, it's great. Nobody talks about the second time they've done something. That makes sense. Yeah. That makes sense. Work it up a little bit.
Yeah, they're two great venues, Nassau and Barclays.
So you were the vice president at the Arena Network.
Yes.
Can you, first of all, explain what the Arena Network is? Because I think a lot of people probably don't know.
Sure. It is a network of venues, a membership type thing, similar to what Oakview's doing now.
Kind of like Columbia Records and Tapes did when we were kids with the 9 CDs for a penny, and then we're paying it off for the rest of our life.
A little bit different, but it's venues sharing information and theoretically making offers together. Some of them do, some of them don't, but doing their best to try to keep themselves in the conversation. So if you knew that a big tour was going out and you knew it was going to be Live Nation or AEG, it at least gave the venues who were in competitive markets a chance to, these are the extra things we want to offer to try to steer the show our way. And sharing a little bit of the best practices. It wasn't so much operationally, but really more on the booking side.
So resources.
Right, yeah.
Vice President of Industry Relations at BSE Global. That's an awesome title. It's a mouthful. Vice President of Industry Relations.
Yes.
What the fuck does that mean?
Again, I am the extension of the booking department out here on the West Coast. So, out here meeting with agents and promoters. I really do go see a lot of new shows. And when we were talking about House of Blues, how great it was to develop those relationships and that social atmosphere, I now found myself in a different way going to see a lot of new bands and the new agents that are coming up. Sometimes I'll have to, look up their image online and see what they look like. And I just go introduce myself. The reality is, who doesn't at some point want their artist to be able to play Barclays or a Nassau Coliseum? So I go see a lot of shows and still connect on that level in maybe more of an authentic way, going to see some acts. And that's part of it. And then the other part is, being out here with agents and meeting with them, whether it's in their office or going to some of their shows. But I'm also more on the content development side now, too. So that's, everybody's got these buzzwords, brand experiential, but definitely meeting with a lot of those type of companies to develop some content. And that has been really fun. It's been really interesting.
Okay, so we've talked about how you found your way to the industry from banking, which is a first for the podcast. I've not had anybody do that explanation. But at the same time, your musical path clearly coming from the concert side and the venue side and your experience in the business and where you're currently at. And obviously Barclays has become a household name as far as venues goes, and one of the biggest sports franchises in the world plays there. And obviously Nassau Coliseum has some of the biggest concerts that ever play. Webster's a grand name in the club scene in New York and has been for a very long time. And I imagine the remodel is only going to help that as that's coming back online. So some very cool brands in your hand right now. What's the goal?
I think the goal is to there are still so many things I don't know. And I keep having the great fortune of working with so many awesome people who have a wealth of experience and knowledge. So, even this brand experiential stuff that I'm working on now is a whole nother facet that I never thought I'd be involved with. And that's led me to looking at different technologies, which the ownership of BSE Global is super interested in, from augmented reality, AI, and, working with a lot of different companies that way. So I feel like I never stop learning. I think at some point I'd like to be back at a venue because just that camaraderie of working with people and the different music that you hear every day, which is unlike even being on tour with the same artists. You get different artists every day in your building and the roar of the audience. And the first time that I really experienced that, besides working at House of Blues, but when I was in charge, was at the Wiltern. And, you know, you have a sold out show. My first show there was Jamiroquai. The walls were like sweating, and you hear the roar of the crowd, and all of a sudden I had this, oh my God moment. I'm responsible for everyone in here. And it was scary, but it was also like thrilling, because when people were leaving and high-fiving each other, and like you hear people saying it's the best night of my life, like those are the moments that, you know, I live for.
Talk about the modern day Prince. That guy's fucking amazing.
Right.
You're very hireable, clearly, and you've wound up working for the same people a couple times, so you've gotten away and they've wanted you back, which is very flattering.
Absolutely, yeah.
You tend not to lose your cool. Is there a Tina Suca that yells, and how do we get there? Because I don't think I've ever seen the other side of you, and I'm glad I haven't. I assume it exists at some level?
Yeah, I really wish that I could remember the tour manager who gave me this great lesson, but there was some moments in my early career where I would just lose my shit. And I'd get bent out of shape over something, and he kind of took me aside, and I wish I could give credit where credit's due, because I don't remember who it was, and he was like, hey, you know, you're kind of embarrassing yourself and you need to take it down a notch. The show's going to happen whether or not you lose your shit or not. And so just take whatever the problem is, work towards the solution, and try not to get so crazy about it, because the show's going to happen with or without you. And he's like, I prefer it happens with you. And I really wish I could remember who it was, because that was the best piece of advice. So yeah, I'm a nice person and I let people push me to a certain point, and I do lose it, but I think that was the best piece of advice I ever received.
Now, we've both been in the industry long enough to remember when people used to speak to each other a little less respectfully.
Yes.
And now it's a day where the calmer, cooler heads prevail. You can have a stern conversation with somebody when they fuck up, but in a respectful way. I don't know that I've ever seen you lose your cool, and clearly that speaks to the level that you do your business at.
Thank you. Well, I feel the same way about you and your company, and that's why you have so many people who want to work with you, is that you try to give people benefit of the doubt. You call them out when you think they need to be called out, but in a respectful, nice way. So that is just how I would want to be thought of in the business, is being respectful.
So, industry advice for the young kids coming up behind you on career longevity?
Yes. I really think there's no substitute for getting in there and working hard and just starting at the bottom level, whether it's receptionist or I talk to a lot of people in our business who are security or they worked in accounting. If you have a strength and, you know, you can get yourself into, from my point of view, a venue, because that's where I found my joy, working for venues and or promoters. Use that skill, but then start asking a lot of questions and volunteer yourself to help. Don't be a nuisance, but definitely when someone needs something done, you're like, I'll do that. If you want to do something, you don't know how to do it, just ask. There are a lot of people who are willing to share.
Kind of want to be a nuisance. It's kind of fun sometimes. Thank you so much for taking time and talk to me on Promoter 101, Tina.
Thanks for having me.
Tina's a mover and a shaker. Everything she touches seems to turn to gold. Thrilled to have her right here on Promoter 101.
This is Dan Smalls from DSP Shows, and you're on Promoter 101.
The quote of the week comes to us this week from Apple's Tim Cook. Winning has never been about making the most. Deep, motherfucker. Deep.
Okay. I'm not sure if that really is the truth or not, Dan, but we'll see.
Tim Cook said it. It's the truth. You can't argue with Tim Cook.
Okay.
He's Tim Cook. You're not.
That is true. I'm not Tim Cook.
We are just on a roll of facts today. You can't stop this truth train.
Wow. Truth train.
Hi, it's Kim Badir with City of Tacoma Venues and Events, appearing on Promoter 101. Glad to represent all Canadians everywhere, particularly those who have landed in the US of A.
That'll do it. The start of our broadcast week in the can, episode 158. A huge thank you to all of you tuning in, listening to this podcast. We want to know what you thought of it. Hit us up at Steiny at promoter101.net. We want to know your thoughts. We also have to give a huge thank you to our amazing guests this week from BSE, Brooklyn Sports Entertainment, Tina Suca, as well as Staples Center, Lee Zeidman. Thank you for coming on the podcast. Thanks for turning the tables in Steiny. I really like listening to that.
Want to thank everybody for sharing their ideas of who they think we should have on the podcast before we wrap this SOB up. Some great ideas. We've got a list of our own going, and I think you're going to be happy with what we've got in store for you. We're cooking up some good shit.
That's right. Back on Thursday at 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern, midnight Greenwich Mean Time. Looking forward to seeing you then. Dan, who are we going to have on the podcast on Thursday?
Coming up next Thursday, Nederlanders Justin Kajawa, one of the hottest talent buyers on the West Coast, right here in the hot seat on Promoter 101. He's answering the tough questions. It's a steel cage match. Nobody leaves the room until we get some fucking answers, and we're going to deliver that to you right here this Thursday on Promoter 10. Wait for it. 1.
Hey, until then, we're wishing you a week sold out shows. Good luck. God bless. Good night. We'll see you on Thursday.
Cheers. Call your mother.
Hello, this is Dan Berkowitz from CID Entertainment and CID Presents, and I am here on Promoter 101.